This is the regular meeting of the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West, held in Council Chambers at 216 Main Street West, Swan River, Manitoba, this 11th day of May 2021 at 7:03 p.m. Due to COVID-19 restrictions, some members are attending by phone. Actually, all members are here in person tonight. We do have members though of the gallery attending by phone, and we welcome them at this point. Present in chambers, myself, Deputy Reeve, Blosha, Councillors Foster, Gade, Wills, Kushniryk, and Pierrepont, and our ACAO/Finance Officer, James Webb.
There's more on that than like, no big deal.
First resolution, resolved that the agenda for the regular meeting of council held this 11th day of May 2021 shall be adopted as presented. Do we have a mover for that resolution? Moved by Councillor Foster. Seconder. Councillor Kushniryk. Any changes desired by anyone?
Actually, a little discussion about the agenda, if we could. I'm troubled by how our agenda is working lately. This evening at 6:31 p.m., Council received the agenda for the meeting tonight. That makes it very hard to properly prepare for a meeting when you have 29 minutes notice of what will be discussed. It's virtually impossible to know the background information of the topics that have been added. And while that's true, we do get an agenda on Friday. It's become rather commonplace now that the agenda is updated shortly before the meeting. I think that's the new one. Is it the new one? Okay. So it would be good, our procedures bylaw provides that the agenda should be out on Fridays. And we should really only be adding things to the agenda that are emergent. You know, and certainly, I can see one thing tonight that is, but there are some things that are not. So I would appreciate if we could be a little closer to our procedures bylaw so we could have some notice as a council of what's coming to the table at night with time to research it, because I just don't think 29 minutes is enough for me to be able to properly do my job of knowing the details behind the things on the listing to be ready to talk about them. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments or additions to the agenda? None? Call the question, all in favor? That is carried. Next resolution, resolved that the minutes for the regular meeting of council for the Municipality of Swan Valley West held on April 27th, 2021 shall be adopted as circulated. Mover, please. Moved by Councillor Wills, seconded by Councillor Blosha. Any errors or omissions? Not. Call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Mr. Hoffard on the phone?
I'm too sure.
Mr. Hoffard, are you on the phone?
He had an option to join or not, so I guess he.
Oh, okay.
We'll take care of it.
We can maybe revisit that in a few minutes, just in case he's a little late in joining. It's actually 7:08. Okay, for the Time being then, we'll go into general business. 7.1, bylaw enforcement officers report for April 2021. Resolved that the bylaw officers report for April 2021 shall be received by the Council for the Municipality of Swan Valley West. Do we have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Wills, seconded by Councillor Pierrepont. Any questions or comments? If not, all in favor? It is carried. Next resolution, resolved that the following animal control reports shall be received by the Council for the Municipality of Swan Valley West. The Rural Animal Control Officer's report for the month of April 2021. Be it further resolved that payment for the above services shall be approved as submitted. A mover, please. Moved by Councillor Blosha. Seconded by Councillor Foster. Any questions or comments? If not, all in favor? It is carried. Next resolution, resolved that the following animal control report shall be received by the Council for the Municipality of Swan Valley West. The Urban Animal Control Officer's report for the month of April 2021. Be it further resolved that payment for the above services shall be approved as submitted. Do we have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Wills. Seconded by Councillor Kushniryk. Any questions or comments on this report? If not, all in favor? That is carried. Next resolution, resolved that bylaw number 0084-21 to amend map 2D of bylaw number 2383-04, being the Rural Municipality of Swan River zoning bylaw, be read a first time this 11th day of May 2021. Do we have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Wills, seconded by Councillor Foster. Any questions or comments? If not, all in favor? All in favor?
Yeah.
That is carried.
Yeah.
You were too quick, Leo.
Yeah.
You need to see. Thank you. Okay, we will call again for Mr. Hoffard if he is on the phone with us. Mr. Hoffard, are you there?
I don't think he was going to
Apparently, he
be.
is not going to attend, so we will take care of the issue.
Yeah.
Next resolution. Resolved that a public hearing shall be held on July 13th, 2021 at 7 p.m. for the purpose of receiving presentations from those who may be interested as related to the request for a rezoning application from AG Agricultural Zone to CH Commercial Highway Zone on part of the property known as the Northeast One Quarter Section of 1936-27 WPN CT 24-20184 and R136000. Be it further resolved that all necessary advertising, mailing, and posting of the notice for said hearing shall be made in accordance with the Planning Act. Do we have a mover for that resolution? Moved by Councillor Blosha. Seconded by Councillor Wills. Any questions, comments? If not, all in favor? That is carried. Next resolution, 7.6. Whereas the Thunderhill Ski Club, Inc. is inquiring to build 4 micro cabins and an outdoor classroom structure on Crown land, which is Southeast 19, 3529 WPM, as outlined in the circular dated April 28, 2021, from Real Estate Services Branch, Manitoba. And whereas the usage, M miscellaneous 73835, is to be circulated by all neighboring municipalities, and it is important to government that comments are being provided so that all informed decisions are made concerning the disposition of Crown land. Be it resolved that Council for the Municipality of Swan Valley West has no concerns regarding said proposed usage by the Thunderhill Ski Club, Inc., as long as all necessary building and development permits are obtained for said project. Be it further resolved that the Reeve shall sign on said circular on behalf of the Municipality of Swan Valley West. Do we have a mover for that resolution? Moved by Councillor Blosha, seconded by Councillor Wills. Any discussion, questions, comments? Go ahead.
I'd like to take a moment to speak in support of this, because I think it's a very good idea. Anytime we see development in our municipality, I certainly applaud that, it's making the Thunderhill Ski Club better. The only thing I kind of wonder about our resolution.
Can the people on the phone hear Councillor Gade?
No.
Maybe just pass the phone there to the end of the table if you would, Councillor Wills. Sorry, I'm interrupting.
I can take it right over, that's even better.
So to recap, the first part was that I speak in support of this motion. I think it's important that we see development in the municipality wherever possible. This certainly is not only development, but will become a tourist attraction. The only thing I'm curious about in our resolution, I wonder if council would be of the mind that we could add some additional words to it, such as we fully support this proposal, rather than just saying we have no concerns with it. Because I don't think saying we have no concerns truly captures at least my feeling, and I don't know about the rest of council, but I think not only do we not have concerns, we're very happy, and we would like to see this go ahead. So rather than just say there's no concerns, I'd like to just add that bit in there that we recommend its approval.
Okay, is there any issue with me adding that in, that we fully support?
I don't think that'd be
So
fine.
we'll read now, Swan Valley West has no concerns and fully supports that isn't a read though. There's no concerns and fully supports regarding supports the proposed usage. So that paragraph will read, be it further resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West has no concerns and fully supports the proposed usage by the Thunderhill Ski Club. That good? Okay, anything other? If not, all in favor? That is carried. Next resolution, resolved that the Swan River Fire Department report for April 2021 shall be received by the Council for the Municipality of Swan Valley West. A mover, please. Moved by Councillor Kushniryk. Seconded by Councillor Pierrepont. Any questions or comments on that? Go ahead.
I'm looking at, let's walk over towards the bottom, it won't be long. I'm looking at line 1, a grass fire. On the report it indicates permit on file, yes, but non-compliant. So I'm curious what our disposition is for that, if we're pursuing it or not.
Got the one more.
Yeah, we're just we're working on it.
It's a work in progress.
Work in progress.
Okay, so it'll come back at some point for us to know what happens.
Yep. Yeah, there was a, yeah.
Any other questions or comments? If not, all in favor? That is carried.
Seven, eight, and overtime.
Next resolution, resolved that Council for the Municipality of Swan Valley West has received the LUD Committee minutes of April 2021. Mover, please. Moved by Councillor Wills, seconded by Councillor Foster. Questions or comments? If not, all in favor? That is carried. Next resolution, resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West is hereby rescind resolution number 5 of the February 23rd, 2021 regular meeting of Council regarding the hiring of Sampson Developments, Inc. to do repairs to the Whitmire and Crestview bridges. A mover, please. Moved by Councillor Wills, seconded by Councillor Pierrepont. Any discussion? Not all in favor. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I'm curious, this bridge issue has been a bit of a yo-yo. We've gone one way, we've rescinded, we've gone another way, we're rescinding. Would it be possible to have a bit of background of why we're rescinding a second time?
Oh, it's not in here?
Do
Okay.
you have any comment or not? Pardon?
Well, I mean, we had the meeting with Sanson, and basically, I do not think that they were acting in the best for the municipality.
Is there a plan to do something now with these bridges? Obviously, it's too late for this winter, the winter's over, but what's our plan now? Because obviously we need to still do something. What's next?
I would like to bring forward also that we have a meeting with Harbuilt and go over his proposal again, as I still feel it's the best option, and have him come here and do a presentation sometime this summer before winter, so that we can have this all done and ready to go.
I agree, Darryl.
Because from there it goes up. I mean, nothing against Pier or Canada Bridge, I think Harbuilt is still probably the best option. That's just my opinion, so.
Okay, we were going to do some remedial work to ensure that the damage didn't get any worse to the deck. And maybe a good idea that you have, Councillor Pierrepont, we can pursue that. Councillor Kushniryk?
Yeah, my concern was the fact that these quotes were presented to us however many months ago, right? So we've seen the increase in the price of lumber in that over the last number of months, that I don't even know if these quotes would still...
That's the problem, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think these quotes would still be valid anymore.
Or we could always re-tender.
I think it's probably the logical way of doing it now, but...
Lumber, fuel, everything's gone up, so. But I'd like to see it done sooner than later, that's all.
Yeah, we've kind of been backed into a corner. We got...
Being as how prices of commodities fluctuate, I guess time will tell what happens with the price of wood. But it may continue to go up, may come down, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, it's,
It's skyrocketed right now.
I forget, somebody told me they bought a 2x4, 12 or 14 foot, was like $27 for one.
Treated?
No,
No.
That's even more than treated used to be.
yeah,
Exactly.
they used to be $5.
No. At any rate, we can put it on the agenda for our next Friends meeting, which will occur later this month.
Yeah, and I mean, that's, I think Tyler's got the right idea, we'll just re-tender it and give everybody the same option and move forward. I'd like to have it all set by August so that we're ready to start in December.
Did we have someone join us?
Yeah, it's Marty Thomas getting my cell phone dropped on me.
Welcome, Marty. Okay, any further questions or comments?
I want to add that I appreciate Mr. Pierrepont's comments tonight. It's well thought out on his part, I think, and I appreciate him sharing his reasoning with us.
Anything further? Not all in favor? That is carried. Okay, 7.11, 7.11, I guess. Next resolution, whereas this municipality has received quotes for the purchase of a mower. Therefore be it resolved that the Council for the Municipality of Swan Valley West does hereby approve the purchase of a 2020 Schulte XH1500 S4 rotary cutter as attached quote from John Deere for $34,500 plus taxes. Do we have a mover for that resolution? Councillor Foster,
You go ahead.
seconded by
I'll second it.
Councillor Kushniryk.
Yeah. Funny guys.
Any questions or comments?
So I'm curious, I know we talked about this in a previous meeting, we discussed whether to go with a 10-foot or 15-foot. At the meeting, there was some great discussion about both options. Since then, I've certainly spent some time stepping out some of the places where this mower would have to operate if it's in the south section. How confident are we that a 15-foot mower is the right answer there? Because it certainly seems to me that there's quite a few places where to get the 15-foot to work, you would have to be quite low in the ditch with the tractor. Will it do that? Or are we better off with the 10-foot we've always used?
Quite low with the tractor.
Why would you have to go low?
My understanding, pictures of it, is that where the tractor sits, there's mower to either side on the 15, whereas on the 10, it's only to the back.
No, we got our arm on it.
We have an offset hitch that goes on, so you can put that mower completely offset to the tractor or
So
a
the tractor can
tractor.
stay on the
Stay
road.
on
Yeah, tractor
same
stays on
place
the
as
road.
10 foot.
And if there's a road, say where there's 12 feet is all that's available, it won't hurt the thing for 3 feet of it to be riding on the ground or something.
Not necessarily. If you had a whole pile of that, you can disconnect the one drive shaft and just let it float. But, no, a little bit here and there, if it's got it right on the road, it really won't matter a whole bunch.
And my reading of this is that it's a better price because it's an old stock unit, whereas if we were to not do this now, we might end up paying for a 2021 unit that would be more expensive. Is that
Yeah.
Also, it's available, and the other
It's
one
new
wouldn't be
stock.
available till September,
Mhm.
so that doesn't.
And do we have plans for the old one in case something is going on, or could we still use it if we had to?
It can still be used.
It'll be the backup
Yeah.
for now.
And in the event that there's 10%, 15, 20% that can't be mowed with it, it's there to use in those areas.
To help save on the 15-foot.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments? If not, all in favor? That is carried.
Welcome, Glenn.
You'll be following that thing around every.
You better. Yeah, don't get too close.
Next resolution, be it resolved that Council of the RM of Swan Valley West hereby approve the attached media release as presented for distribution to LUB Benito residents via Canada Post. A mover for that resolution? Moved by Councillor Blosha. Seconder, Councillor Foster. Everyone have a copy of the release?
I believe so.
Yep,
Where is it on?
it's 712. It was,
All of them.
It should be
I
the,
bet you,
it's behind this one. It was,
it was probably in a separate package.
Yeah.
Any
Does
comments or
anybody else
questions?
need another copy?
Maybe bring me one too, James. I had a hard time finding it.
Go ahead.
You want me to wait for Mr. Webb to come back, or?
Yeah, maybe, so everyone has.
Thanks. Heard about that, yeah. They've done quite a bit with it.
That's like 3 and 6s. Actually,
Like, maybe, I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe somewhere else maybe.
Traffic crush stop by home. Should all be the same style.
Yeah, yeah.
Unless maybe this come a couple weeks ago. And then maybe added this to the file as well.
Unless this another file, let's get to the yeah, yeah.
Well, we'll ask James what he
Yeah.
says.
Good.
Did everyone get a copy of this? Okay, you were going to be asking a question or making a comment, Councillor Gade?
Some of each. So I'm curious, my first question is, I received this 29 minutes before the meeting. I thought everyone had received it, but I see some members of council, actually I'd take a pause for some members of council to receive a copy and read it. So it kind of indicates that council wrote this. I think maybe that's not 100% accurate if not everybody had even seen it until now. So who actually wrote this?
Councillor Rose. I believe it was written by administration, but
Or council.
So has the person that written this by chance taken the media training that's available? So we do have a media spokesperson, which is Mr. Galloway. I know Mr. Galloway is very capable at writing quite nice documents. Some of this doesn't necessarily strike me as the type of thing you would normally send out as a media release. So I'm curious if when this was written, we sort of wrote it with the lens of what a good media release should have in it, or if we just kind of wrote something.
what are you suggesting is missing?
Well, so a few things. First of all, the resolution calls for distributing it through Canada Post, which would specifically make it not be a media release. That would be a newsletter. So we're calling it a media release, but the resolution doesn't call for us to actually send it to the media. So if we want it to be a media release, we should probably send it to the media. And certainly we could distribute it as well through Canada Post. But I think we should have some clarity on what the intention is. If we're distributing this to the media as a media release, or if we are just distributing it through Canada Post to people in Benito. The secondary part of that, the Benito distribution route, not everyone who has water service in Benito would receive it by putting it just in the mailboxes of Canada Post. So either it should go into water utility bills that go out so that the system users actually get it, or certainly giving it to the media would kind of solve that. So is it our intention to give it to the media too, or just to mail it out?
I was just distributing it through the flyer. That will cover 99% plus of the people that are affected. And it'll get it out there immediately versus waiting until the next utility circular.
So would we give some thought to maybe also releasing it to the media as a media release in case we miss anybody?
I think that the word will get out there. I think this is a good medium to do it with. We're not interested in spreading it any further than the people that are affected by it.
So I think we should probably then, certainly we could generate a list of any utility bills that don't go to a mailbox in Benito. And there would only be, I think, as Mr. Webb suggests, a few. Maybe it would be a good idea to mail directly to those few that aren't Benito box holders to ensure they receive it. Because then we wouldn't leave anybody out and just hope they heard about it. And we should probably remove the references to it being a media release if we're not actually having it be a media release, because that will be confusing to people.
Maybe we should just put it on Facebook next time, because apparently that's the right thing to do. I'm sorry, but you're sitting here kicking holes in this, and you're the reason this got written up.
Okay, let's conduct this meeting in an orderly fashion. We are no longer going to be allowing grandstanding or accusations to fly. I guess I should have mentioned that at the onset of the meeting, but now seems like a very appropriate time. I haven't actually personally looked up in the dictionary lately what a media release means, but I would think that given that this is a targeted message to users of the utility, that the Benito post office would probably cover, I don't know, 90+% of those users. And if it would seem fair, I would ask that administration search the record. There should be an easy way to do it, I would think, on computer, to toss out the ones who are users of the utility but do not get their mail in Benito, and then mail that to them under separate cover to their address in Durban or RR1, or pardon me, Gendel, Swan River, or whatever their address happens to be.
So what about
That
doing
could be
it,
accomplished? Okay.
doing it to Durban as well?
Yeah, well, whatever the address of those that do not use the Benito post office, I think it's only fair that they get a copy of this as well, so.
Okay, well,
We could do.
the
like
one
you said,
question I'm asking is the bulk water some people use for drinking that will not be direct in the LUD.
Well, we could then post a plasticized notice of the paper, coated in plastic, even a couple copies of it in case one gets ripped down or whatever, and staple it right to the building.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, well, just,
Right by
as
the
Bill had said, just to,
coin machine.
I think it'd be just as easy to throw them in the Durban post office as well as.
Yeah.
you
Oh, well, that's-
so
that way
that'll
you-
cover the areas.
you cover that
we
whole
need.
area.
Yeah, that's a.
because that should be right to, well, what, till Kenville almost, right?
Yeah, and putting a plasticized coating on one or two and sticking them up on the exterior of the building wouldn't hurt either, probably.
There's a bulletin board.
Do we have a bulletin board there?
Yeah,
There is one?
between
Yeah.
Scouts and.
There's also one at the Durban Post.
Oh, downtown.
We can put it at the,
I think
where the
we're both
water
too.
is what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, I know even
Coin machine or
some
whatever.
people in Kenville also get some water from there. Just that way we cover everybody,
Yep.
that's.
For sure, yep, that's good. No, it's important that everybody gets notified of this.
Okay, any other questions?
Well, I have more, if that's all right. So when I'm here, my job is to do what is best for the municipality. So in paragraph 3, there's a sentence here that says, "We cannot take our direction from untrained individuals who follow the internet." That is probably unnecessarily combative. If the purpose of sharing information with the users is to tell them the water is safe, the water is undergone testing, which is basically what we're saying here, right? That kind of draws away from that whole thing, right? Like, it starts the question of, well, what are the untrained individuals saying? Whereas it would be better for a municipality to say, here are the facts, here is what's happening, thank you, have a nice day, rather than going down into the weeds. So I kind of, that I sort of flagged for some more discussion. In paragraph 4, the engineering assessment study was completed. It's got several areas that require replacement or upgrading, which is good. The only thing that I would point out there, if a resident or water user asked members of council if they had ever seen that report, I don't know if all members of council would be able to say that they've seen it or have any idea what it contains. So it sort of alludes to here that the work has been agreed to and is starting, but I don't know that we've ever passed a resolution like that. And I think we're in a position where some people have never even seen the report to know what's in there. So we may want to just think about where we are with that, to make sure we're not saying something we don't want to commit to when there's no resolution and it hasn't been seen. In paragraph 5, we talk about the annual report, which is judgment posted on March 31st, 2022, or before then possibly. But there's a sentence here that says, "Council has directed that these reports now be prepared for this water treatment plant and posted on the municipal website." That's not actually true. Council hasn't made that direction. And I'm not necessarily saying we shouldn't. I would be in favor of such direction. But I don't know that we should send something out that contains something that's blatantly untrue, because council hasn't passed a resolution or made a decision like that. So we should either be removing it, or before this goes, we should be making that decision official, so that it's true. The next paragraph, it says there's a recent unauthorized social media release by a member of council. I think we could probably, from Mr. Wills' comments earlier, assume that was me. That was directed against the operators. It kind of goes back to that combative stance from before. Council's goal is to share what is true, and here are the things. We sort of veer off there again into the weeds. Certainly the latter part of it, the trained and competent operators, is all good. Those two sentences, though, this unauthorized release and non-compliance with communications policy. I promise, Mr. Wills, I'm not trying to pick a fight with you. I'm working very hard to just make a couple points that I'd like to see changed to the betterment of the municipality, because I have no interest in fighting with you tonight. I would put some thought into those two, if they need to be there, if it drags us down. And the secondary issue with those is I'm not actually aware of a member of this council making an unauthorized social media release. I know there could be a lot of discussion about that. I'm aware of a broadcast outlet doing a story about the water, but that is probably a different beast than an unauthorized social media release. So there could be some questions there. Again, just wanting us to be, stay with what our message is. Our message is the water is good. What's not in here, I would like to see us add some details, because people generally respond better to actual concrete details and plans. So we talk about testing is conducted on a scheduled basis. I don't think there'd be any reason why we couldn't, flesh that out a bit and say the water is tested for chlorine levels every 2 weeks. And there has not been a test. Winnipeg is tested daily by our operators. None of those tests have had an issue with the chlorine levels. Certainly that will provide that more background of, it's very true, there hasn't been a chlorine issue there. And rather than just saying, we test it when we need to, it would give that meat and potatoes of the authoritative voice of, we test it every 2 weeks for this, we test it every day for this. It's also probably a little misleading to not mention the manganese levels in the release. A person could take this, even if we made the changes I suggested earlier, you could take it to mean that there is not an issue with the manganese levels in the water. And in reality, there is. They're over the aesthetic guidelines practically every day. And, for certainly some amounts of times, they're also over the safety guidelines. And that was the subject of a release from the province just a week or two back about manganese levels and the dangers to youth and babies of those. So if we're going to do this, I'd love to see us put in there something about the manganese levels, what they are, what the guidelines are. And we could go so far as to state that, we're taking action over some concrete steps, right? We're changing the green sands. We might be doing some other projects there that are geared to reduce those levels back down to where they should be. But that would be sort of my suggestions for this, and I'll leave that with council to talk about and decide.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
According to the drinking water officer, the manganese is not over the levels. They have been testing it.
So we should put that in then.
I think it's,
If that's what he said, let's put it in here. The drinking water officer says the manganese levels are not over the, if we know that and that's what he said, by all means, let's put it in.
Okay, we will take these comments over the past 10 minutes or so into under advisement and direct administration to make any changes they see fit prior to mailing it out to attempting to reach every user of the utility.
So would council be seeing it again before that happens?
I don't know whether that is necessary. That's why we have an administration, a competent administration.
So we have a move and a second on that. We just take a vote to see whether that wants to be sent out the way it is.
So a couple things. I'd like a recorded vote. And I would just like to note for the record that we very recently passed a media release specifying Mr. Galloway as the person who should be officially issuing this. So I think it's important that we recognize that council approving this we'll attach it to Mr. Galloway as the media spokesperson issuing the media release.
As I tried to explain earlier, Councillor Gade, a media release is not necessarily, in my humble opinion, something that is given to different forms of media.
Oh, I totally understand. Mr. Webb does not have the authority from this council to release a media release. Only you do, sir. So I
I
just want to
believe
make
it
sure.
states either myself or the CAO.
But Mr. Webb isn't the CAO, so it would need to be Mr. Galloway that releases it.
Again, we're splitting hairs here. In the absence of a CAO, Mr. Webb is our CAO, our acting CAO.
Just, I think, full disclosure, if we're to vote on this as is, some portions of this release would be actionable. And that would be a danger for
That's your
council.
prerogative. Okay, we have had full and robust debate. Any further last comments? Not a recorded vote has been called for.
Does
Councillor
anybody
Blosha.
else want to make a comment besides me? So I'd love to hear other people's thoughts.
I have asked for them.
Was there changes being made?
There were changes going to be made, yes.
But Mr. Webb actually said we're voting as is.
Pardon?
He said there was a mover and second. Let's just vote
I'm not
as
going to
is.
make edits without approval from council, so if it gets defeated, then we will talk about the changes that council has incorporated, so it's not up to one individual to do that.
I think that's very fair. If I was in Mr. Webb's position, I'd feel the same. So I think it's important to understand we're voting, that a yes vote here is to not edit it and send it out as is. A no vote is to do some editing.
Yeah, and the thing is that in here, there's some, the assessment reveals several opportunity areas required replacement upgrade. Well, we've started that and approved by council.
Okay, a recorded vote has been called for. Councillor Blosha.
Yes.
Councillor Pierrepont.
No.
Councillor Kushniryk.
No.
Councillor Gade.
No.
Councillor Wills.
No.
Councillor Foster.
Okay, no.
Everybody wants to review it, we'll review it. No.
I just don't want it to sit forever.
Yeah.
I want it to go
Well,
on.
no,
Yeah.
let's,
But it was well written.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
written,
If there's some things need to be changed, so be it.
yeah.
Did you make mental note of Councillor Gade's suggested changes?
Mental notes only. Which one would council like incorporate?
Well, the big one for me is that the manganese levels are safe.
You want that incorporated?
Mhm.
Okay.
as per the tests, yes.
And you are on firm belief that the water officer suggested that no readings are over?
Well, no, he didn't say that no readings are, but it's done on a month level,
Monthly average.
a monthly average, and that monthly average is safe and that there is no harm.
Okay, so that is what should be recorded, and perhaps you could double check with Mr. Yo and ensure that that statement is correct, because we do not want to misrepresent.
No,
We
no,
can't
none.
misrepresent the office of drinking water, we can't speak for him, that's the, but the reports, the fact is that the guidelines can be stated, and then ours can be compared to it and show that it's,
Yeah, no, well, that's,
that's the facts, not gonna blur them, it's just gonna be, here's how the tests are done, here's what we're comparing to.
Okay, was there any other? Go ahead.
I'd just like to ask about this last part here where you commented on the social media released by a member of council. How would you prefer that be worded? Would it be better to say a local broadcast company instead of a member of council, or?
I think in most people's minds are one and the
It
same.
would be an unauthorized release at that point. Like if you just changed member of council to broadcast company, you'd be saying there's a recent unauthorized social media release by a broadcast company. I don't know if that's where we want to go.
I'm just,
Certainly, if council's so willing to say that, that would be council's decision. I don't know, I would change it in that way, I might do more editing.
What do you think it should say though?
If you want me to wear simply my council hat, my advice is don't get into the weeds. The more times you go down in the weeds, council is the ultimate authority in that water plant. And the state through that plant. When the council says that plant is this, the test results are this, the limit is this and we're below it, the chlorine limits are this, we're always above what the chlorine needs to be. The more times you go down in the weeds for any reason, and that's not just this council, anyone that is the authority in it, gives credence to the others in the weeds. I think it would be fair to say it's council's opinion, maybe not the majority, but council's opinion is that some of, that is in the weeds.
but I don't think as council, we gave permission to release any of that information.
I'm not sure that council has a role to tell a broadcast company what it can and can't do a story on.
Okay, so then broadcast company is what we should put here then, or?
Yes, but I would suggest more changes than just member of council broadcast company, because otherwise you end up reading a recent unauthorized release by a broadcast company, that's not kind of silly. Because council doesn't have the authority to authorize an unauthorized broadcast company to a story, right?
But we have somebody that's
So
here
if
too.
council does not have that authority, if it weren't for a councillor, the broadcast company would never have received that information.
Well, actually, funny you should mention that, because you'll recall, 2 meetings ago, I actually was on the phone, so I wasn't here, but I was attending the meeting by phone, and I was trying to ask a bunch of questions about the water, including what the test results were for things like the manganese. And it was made extremely clear at the meeting that I wasn't to have that information. So I can assure you that council never provided me that information, even though I asked for it. I was shut down at the meeting and told that we declined to answer the questions.
It still doesn't answer the question, because I believe most people believe that yourself and that radio station are synonymous.
That's a belief I suppose someone could have.
At any rate, you've taken those points, unless you have one more.
Well, I'm curious, I don't want to leave with the misrepresentation that somehow council actually gave me that information. Because council to date, as far as I know, has not provided to the members of council the test results for the water.
Where did you get the test results that were on social media?
I think that's a question off the funds, but it relate to council.
Okay.
I can assure you I didn't receive them here at council, even though I asked for them.
Okay.
So just to make the clarification so that there's no question about it afterwards. We can put that there was a social media release that spoke against our employees and our operators.
So,
And it will probably cover most of what we both need in that. We want to, the point of that paragraph is to have the general public understand that we value our employees, not just one or two or those that agree with us, but that everybody is valuable to us. So that's what we need to do there. And if we put a social media release, I think that will
Covers
suffice.
the generic.
Okay?
for interest's sake, if we do that, it would be defamatory. And we should really not send out something we know is defamatory on its face.
How would it be defamatory? It's a simple statement of fact.
If council, majority of council feels that is a simple statement of fact, I suppose council go ahead, but I would suggest that it's not a simple statement of fact. It would in fact be defamatory.
I don't see that at
I
all.
don't see that would be, I think it's stated black and white, so I think that's pretty straightforward.
It's the secondary part about targeting the staff.
Well, their names were mentioned in that, so would that be a target? I'm just trying to get clarification.
You know, I certainly, when I read the Free Press and I read a story that says Joe Smith was charged with drunk driving after he killed someone, I would have a hard time arguing that the Free Press targeted somebody. You know, I think targeting sort of speaks to an intent of trying to do something, whereas stating the facts would be more what a broadcaster would do. Once you suggest that a broadcaster is targeting someone, if you didn't have proof to back that up, you would very quickly find yourself wondering if your defamation lawsuit was going to land.
What was your intent with putting that post on Facebook?
Well, I have to specifically say that I have not put a post on Facebook.
Okay. So whoever put it
Your
on.
radio
Let's
station.
just
This
move to
is
the-
degenerating again.
Yeah, I just,
We have some improvements to this, release, and we will endeavor to pacify everyone by making some changes. Is that fair enough?
Those two sections would be, we'll put manganese levels into the report, as well as we will be more general with the social media section of that and on our employees.
So the employee, one employee at least was mentioned.
Was
So,
mentioned, yes, so that was, yeah.
At any rate,
So
we,
we'll do that.
we
No,
will review that and rewrite it.
So we have to, we want to redo this resolution saying with the changes, because if they
Oh, I get it now.
council's name on it, do we all agree, yes? Recorded vote again on the same resolution with the changes?
I'd like to see the changes before I vote on something sight unseen, because I think that gives, we're dealing with something so important. To just say, we'll make some changes, let's approve it, doesn't really spell out what the changes are very well. And leaves us in a
Perhaps-
position where council might be attached to
Just send
something
it out.
that didn't.
Perhaps during our recess, our administration can reword.
Well,
things.
that's why we have all these
Because-
tablets and laptops. Just type it up, send it out. We can send back a reply.
Yeah, but the issue is we want this out to the people as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And if it's gonna take another 2 weeks,
Well, I didn't say 2 weeks.
But then
but
can't
you need to pass a resolution.
Yeah. I don't know if you can pass
And
a
for that, you
resolution.
need a meeting.
Public meeting.
So we will ask James if he can do some editing during our recess.
we didn't want to take that recess right now, eh?
No, we haven't done it.
It's so funny, had two other resolutions I was going to write in the recess.
Might have to take a longer
You
recess.
ain't got three.
You're gonna have to take it. Okay, what's the next one?
I'll net.
7.13.
This is one we talked about last time, and it wasn't on the agenda Friday. So,
Okay, next resolution. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West does hereby agree that the purchase of all net meeting will benefit the operation of council and does approve the purchase of the service, setup, and training for $5,495 plus taxes. Do we have a mover for that resolution? Moved by Councillor Kushniryk. Seconded by Councillor Wills. Any discussion?
So on this, I spoke in favor of the last time it came up. I think all that is a great solution. It's being used by a lot of other municipalities. The only thing I'd like to see us discuss and sort of decide on as we do this, AllNet has sort of two modes, and different councils in Manitoba use it two different ways. Some put the information on it and only provide that access to their members of council. So council can use AllNet, but the public can't see it. But AllNet has a very amazing feature where it can actually be public at the same time. The stuff that should be, it doesn't show the stuff that's supposed to be secret, but it would show the agendas and, for example, the attachments here, you'd be able to click on and see the attachment. So I would recommend that whether we put it in the resolution or not, we give direction to administration that we set it up in such a way that, as we do this, it's on the website so the general public can benefit from seeing the agendas and seeing the attachments. Much like the Army Gimli does, I think that would be a great example of how it works.
that module could be attached to our website. We don't have to necessarily go with AllNet's website. As long as we put that module up there, it references the server that this is on, just like you would look at it. And by clicking council or public, that will determine whether it gets reflected on the website, our current website now. So would be beneficial. So,
And
yes.
there is no additional cost for that.
No, it's just it's part of it, but we may as well do it while we set it up, rather than like 6 months from now, say, okay, now let's try and do it.
And,
Just get it all done.
This is one step closer to getting rid of all this paper. We have to start using those tablets and those computers, and it will be, you'll be amazed at the clarity that you'll see when you log into it and how easy it is to find stuff. So we can work through it quickly at the table. It's not like going through emails. It's a lot simpler than that, so.
Well, it would be nice to simplify it, because we kill a lot of trees in here.
Oh, my heart, yeah.
Any other questions or comments? If not, all in favor? And it's carried.
Just back down there again for now.
Just a step or so, go. What are we looking at next?
On to 8.1, be it resolved that Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. General checks number 16897 to 16926 in the amount of $452,452.67. Do we have a mover for that? Moved by Councillor Pierrepont. Seconded by Councillor Blosha. Any questions?
16903 there, on crushing there. I was just wondering, we got 3 invoices. So is this different places there, James, or is that?
Actually, it's the same place, and they give us an invoice for 10,000 for one pile. That's just an estimate.
Okay,
And then the other pile was and that was the invoice they gave us early as a progress payment. And then we actually had the pile measured by Green Arrow,
okay,
and that's where the other 2 invoices come from. The 800 is a separate pile, and then the 1,600 is to top off, because it was 671 yards
okay,
on that.
okay. No, I just wondered there.
And it's so funny because the drone tells you 0.5 yards.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
no,
yeah.
So that's the pit right north?
Yes, the north, yes.
Okay, so we're looking at about 11 or 12,000 yards.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, so that's.
So they're a little shy on what we had asked them for, hey?
They were gonna go back there later on. They have some other
Okay.
commitments, but
Okay.
that'll get us through what we need for this year. And the balance will be used in the following year.
Okay,
Yeah, so that's the kind of plan.
good.
Right.
Number 16915, people first, 279826. What is that for?
Code of conduct.
Is that a final billing or is that just progress?
Progress.
Any other questions? If not, all in favor? That is carried. Next resolution, be it resolved that Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. Payroll payments, checks numbers 3599 to 3609 in the amount of $14,937.74. Mover, please. Moved by Councillor Kushniryk. Seconded by Councillor Wills. Questions, comments? If not, all in favor? That's carried. Next resolution, be it resolved that Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. Indemnities for April in the amount of $8,412.50. A mover, please.
Excuse
Moved
me.
by Councillor Blosha, seconded by Councillor Foster. Questions or comments?
There's one little mistake. Not a big one. It says on the 8th of April, I attended transportation by phone. I got my kilometers though, so that's good.
Yeah.
And the rest makes no
I'll have to look at the written, the handwritten one.
Yeah.
But, I'm going to do like all that and start having you guys fill out the spreadsheet ones and just email it in to me. That would be a lot more efficient than handwriting. Because it is kind of a pain to double up on it, but that's our process right now. And that's how we have to follow it until we decide that we should do it differently. But that would be cool because then you're typing it right in there and you get the totals and you've got a copy of it. So we'll work on
It
it.
says Swan Valley West office in the handwriting too.
And I can say that I can do a disclaimer that I didn't copy, but I did check. So I did check very carefully.
No worries.
Good. Did you have mileage on there? Did I miss?
No, you got the
Mileage
mileage.
is 40.
It
yes.
just says
Yes,
by phone,
I changed
so-
that today, that's
Yeah.
right, yeah.
You betcha.
Councillor Gade.
So I note that I'm not being paid here. And I know it's true Mr. Webb speak about the process, so certainly I spent a little time looking at the process we use and what our bylaw actually says the process is for making these payments. I just want to make sure that council's aware that I've sort of made a conscientious decision to not bill anything additional. That was sort of a conflict resolution type thing. At times, I was finding we came to the table and there would be concerns raised about what I had or hadn't put on the list, and it was just another thing that would come between all of us. So to me, it wasn't a big deal to not get the occasional trip someplace for an hour doing something somewhere, because really, I'm here anyway. So when I check our policies and procedures, my reading of them, and certainly maybe I've got an outdated version, it's been updated, it's been quite a while since I got it, suggests that we would submit anything additional. So if we had committee meetings and mileage for them, we'd submit that, we'd sign the bottom declaring they were true. We would submit anything that we did for road inspections. We would indicate the road, where we went, the amount of time. We would sign again the bottom. And that's captured here in the portion of these where it says, in accordance with Canada Evidence Act. You'll find that in our policies. You'll also find that in the Municipal Act. But what none of it captures is the fact that I'm not being paid my regular monthly indemnity, which comes from a different section of our policies. That's due whether or not I submit any additional amounts. And the cell phone amount is due whether or not I submit any additional amounts. This now makes the third month, which I'm not being paid. So I'd certainly like to see us change that. And certainly if I'm wrong, if I've missed an update to the policy, by all means, maybe Mr. Webb could provide it to me. But otherwise, the policy copy that I have, that's 2.5 years old from when I joined council, indicates that I should be being paid those base amounts anyway.
Mr. Chairman, I worked with Mr. Gade on that earlier in 2020, and I got caught, and I got one of those gotchas when the mileage wasn't accurate. And so I can no longer do it on good faith terms. I have to have it in writing because I can't track whether Mr. Gade is at the meeting or away. I can look it up in the minutes, but time just does not allow. So when 90% of council provides their handwritten, which I don't dispute should be maybe changed. But at this point, I think that's a pattern, and it's a good measure to make sure that administration is covered off and doesn't fall into any, not traps, but any shortfalls. So that's how I would look at that. And I just feel safer doing that way.
Is it a burden on you, Councillor Gade, to submit that, or?
I find that the entire process has become, trying to pick a word that won't be unfortunate. has become less about submitting information and more about arbitrary disagreements. Certainly with the history that we've seen in last year, where we see that members of council were overpaid for various reasons, be that the wrong amount of monthly indemnity, be that the wrong kilometers being listed for use of attended by phone or not. Certainly I don't want to be in a position where I'm again accused of doing something incorrectly, which is something that has happened in the past. Which is why, to prevent conflict, I thought it was such a simple solution. Certainly if, something occurred and I felt the need to submit additional charges that aren't part of what we have legislated at council. If I want to submit hours for, heaven forbid I attend a committee meeting someday, or perhaps even I drive to a committee meeting, I would gladly submit those, because that is exactly what the form's saying, what our policy says, is to submit anything extra. But I have nothing extra to submit. So essentially I'd be signing a blank form for no particular reason. With the issue of February ones, I understand, through no fault of anyone's, my signed copy of it was lost. And so I'm committed to providing another copy. I don't even mind, if at some point when I'm through the office, these are here and I sign the bottom of it, that's fine by me too. I just call me a rules-based guy, I guess. If the rules say that I should only submit extra charges, and I have no extra charges to submit.
And the point is that the mileage part really came into question, and it's just so much, it's so easy just to write that down, and then I have your signature on it, and it just makes it better. I know that even council proceedings are complicated and cumbersome at times, but it's there for a reason. And if you could just oblige me until we get this, maybe the process updated, we could get you paid up, and that's no problem. I push of a button, we'll get her done. That's what my goal is, to keep the basic stuff updated and everything rolling, and it just keeps everything cleaner. So we can do that after the meeting in 2 minutes, for sure.
In the event that you do not have a pad, I believe there's a pad up there, or should be one somewhere.
Yeah.
Simple signature and month put on it, and rather than continually being at odds, I think it's time that everybody puts a good foot forward. And with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? And it's carried.
Things are done.
Okay, we'll move on to number 9, Hall Road repair request. This another one beyond the one that was supposed to be.
Yeah, and we could talk about the one that was supposed to be a delegate. We could decide, with that as well.
I have another one to add.
That would be, we'd have to do up a resolution at the break to accommodate these, but whatever works.
This is right at the north end.
I never had a chance to.
172?
Never had a chance to look at that.
Right at the end of Road 172?
What do you have there?
It's right here.
222
Do I have it too?
I think so.
Then you guys should pay attention.
222 is
Hey,
the
Darryl.
boundary
Hey,
between.
Darryl. Are we up north there?
Right at the very base, yeah. 172, 222.
How much traffic would be going by there?
I don't. Kate, where did we get this paper from? Because I'm wondering if this is confused with his home quarter on 216.
It says 216, request for road 216.
Oh, yeah. This is
At the top.
216 on the map.
Yeah, because he has another quarter way up north by the block line, and there would be no reason to have dust control up there.
He lives on.
He lives on 216.
Okay.
He's,
So it's
That makes
simply
more
a matter
sense.
of location.
yeah. And, no, I would agree. The way it is right now, 216 is covered from 588 to Highway 10, but really it should be covered right out to 174, like out past the Ford crossing there to the border, because that is a pretty major strip of road, especially this time of year.
So he's on 216 and one's not 172.
He's just off of 172, just a quarter mile west, up the hill, right-hand side of the road. Trailer.
Okay, yeah. Now I know what you mean, yep.
They have the big garden out in front of the house, right by the road.
Just down from Ames. No.
No, north of, what James you talking about?
Stephen.
Well, no, it's
He's not on that.
not on 172. You gotta get to the corner at 216 and go towards my place. And it's just a
Oh, okay, yeah.
quarter mile up on top of the hill.
Yeah.
Right-hand side of the road.
Yeah. So, but it's actually on 216 where they're.
Yes. They live on 216.
And is that a heavy traveled road from Saskatchewan?
Big time. And you see, like 216 from here to here, it's classified in a haul road already, but this section isn't. But I would agree that this section should be, because
That goes right over the Ford there, eh?
yeah,
9 or 10.
and you see a lot of the people on this road live far enough away, or they have enough trees that they're never, did you hear about calcium? There's really only this place
I have.
and Lyle Hanson.
That other one.
I'm looking at it, but, okay.
Yeah, but
Same
in the
thing.
past,
I
I
don't
would
have that
I mean,
other. There's a lot of
the
stuff.
whole road,
I don't
right,
really.
you want calcium, you know what I mean?
One,
But yeah,
and 5, and 2 more.
there those there.
I had no ink and I wasn't printing 24 pages. I was gonna print, I looked, 24 pages, I don't have enough ink for that.
There's something I'd like to talk with dust control too. You guys want to do it right now?
This
Or
is-
after?
There's a what, sir?
Well, it's something I'd like to suggest for dust control too, besides just adding a couple of roads. There's a concept I have I'd like to talk about, it's okay. I was wondering if we would be able to see fit to do a test of dust control with Valley Water. Because they're interested in seeing if they could have a product that would meet our specifications. And I would suggest we do like on a haul road, but not necessarily in front of someone's house. Just, on a piece of road that we can monitor easily. And do like 500 feet at half pound per square meter, 500 feet at 1 pound, and 500 feet at pound and a half. Because we would have those options of different amounts we don't have now. And see how it does for the year. And see if any of that's acceptable, if next year we have the opportunity to use that. Or if we find out it doesn't work. It also show us if we needed the heavier amounts, or if we could go a lighter amount for some things. And we could just sort of watch it in a couple of weeks, right?
The only thing with that is if you do it in a dry, uncalcium place,
It takes more, right?
you're gonna get away less. I know he has done some places for people, and it has not held up.
The other thing too, if I get what you're saying, it would be nice to figure out a solution, right? But let's say you put down three plots, 3 different rates, they can't be graded unless it rains and you can touch them up. But otherwise, that section of road
Bad.
cannot be graded now. You know what I mean?
Is there anything else? Good. Does the traffic impact, if we did it on a road that was barely traveled, or we have some roads that have one person using it, would that give us any results?
I'd volunteer.
I have actually the perfect place to try it out. And it would be the perfect place. It would be the Durban Cemetery.
Well, really?
that would be the place where we should try it out, because a funeral goes on, they're dusting them out, like,
Yeah.
It's actually,
Well, that's-
they gotta slow down at least there. They gotta slow down because the highway's coming.
yeah.
So at least, I don't know, I just think the Benito Cemetery has dust control. That's covered. Durban Cemetery does not. What better place to try it out?
So from what I gathered, there's the different rates, like if you've never done dust control,
Would not be a, if you were to try it out, let's try it out there.
if
Okay.
you've had dust control before, you can get it with half a pound.
It's benefiting
And so I know
everybody.
that some place where it's never been used,
I disagree.
okay, but I'd just like to see what happens, right?
But I mean-
Some place where it's not gonna screw up something because we can't agree, but to see if there's any way, like if we find out, gee, we can do this, that's half the price, I think it would be beneficial. Maybe we find out, hey, you know what, it just doesn't work.
So what's in it?
Yeah, what kind of product is he using?
From my understanding, it's two words, and it's the official dust control. It's slightly different than what Ford uses. They're using with the thing that comes as flake. It's the same stuff Highways uses.
The individual would be prepared to do a test site then, NC? No
Like, I
problem?
don't know, we have talked, they were certainly interested in it before. You know, part of the discussion was, would we allow it? Would we compensate anything for it? Would we not? Would it be totally their dime? You know, what could we arrange to see if we could make this work?
Being that you're always interested in a good product at a great price,
And
I would
also,
suggest, and council can get an A to this, that we invite him to apply the material to the road by the Joint Stock Cemetery, which is north and east of Durban, for a 500 or 800 or 1,000 yard stretch, and we'll keep an eye on it. And if it proves to be beneficial and the cost is effective, we could certainly entertain using that in subsequent years. It wouldn't be a huge cost to him, gives him the opportunity to display his material, and benefits no one in particular, everyone in general, being that it's in front of a cemetery.
Well, I just thought of Tunnel Hall Road as
I was
well.
just trying to think of one other place that we could use it at. I don't think the half would work, because on a year like this, it breaks
So
down
dry.
too much. Even on places that have always had calcium. I mean, mine's had calcium for 12 years now, and by the end of July, it's gone.
And to be fair, you almost need how many liters he puts on that piece too there to compare apples to apples. You know, like,
What he should be told is what the cost of doing, he probably knows what the
Yeah.
cost of doing in front of a residence is now, and apply the same amount of material to the same distance. And then we have an apples to apples
Comparison.
comparison.
Yep.
because you can put a heavier rate on there. Or later, you know, like, or later rate.
Yeah.
You just wanna know how many liters.
But I'm even thinking like down the road, like this year's gonna be terrible. Pioneer is going to be absolutely a nightmare.
Yeah,
So even come July, if we could get him to go do it again,
Yeah, we might have to do something like that.
as even a backup plan right now to,
With regard to-
or like the co-op in front of Co-op Agro someplace that's,
It just gets, it goes to
Well,
hell
it's
quick.
on 216 west of 588.
It's been a while, but I mean, they
Probably be done to the
trying to
river.
contact
There's
me,
probably only 3
it's something called
residents.
Cypher.
I remember, you had, that's the stuff you had.
Yeah,
Name of
Maybe you didn't see that too.
Mr. Hoffard.
I'm sure it's supposed to be like a tree sap.
I do have one more section of road out there too.
Pardon?
I don't know.
One more section of road out there too.
One more section of road. What road?
Road 172 from Highway 275 to 216. So only the 2 miles.
172.
What's on that one?
The anhydrous plant is on that road. There's a truck shop on that road. And the reason I say only the 2 miles is because, again, the trucks coming, they come down 216 from both directions and then go either
both
to
those places.
KTLA or they go to the anhydrous plant. Or coming from the south, same thing. They come from 212 and they come up. There's only 3 residences on that road that would be affected. 2 of them would share the same calcium spot. And if my memory is right, I'm pretty sure we talked about this last year. And I think the truck shop did get a break on calcium.
Yes.
Last year?
So,
Yeah,
well, does the anhydrous plant, would they not pay for theirs?
we're giving more breaks to.
I don't know.
Soon everyone will get it, we'll have to.
Well, that's why
You start down this road.
we'll talk
no, I know.
about that in secret.
Like, I still
As
think
a
it
way to
should be
recuperate that.
the funnels, not all of them, you know.
Well, the thing
We're kind of
is,
staying there.
and like Mr. Hoffard pointed out, those Super Bs going down the road, that's 30 wheels. As opposed to a gravel truck that's got 12.
Half the loads, thirds of loads.
Okay, we have taken those notes and we'll be in contact with you for names.
Sounds good.
9.2. We're going to spend some time on this, and if we get through it, great. If not, we are going to move on to other areas of the agenda so that we are not here until 11:30 this evening, and if need be, we will call a special meeting to go through the rest of it.
So, I'm glad to finally be able to present this. It's been a long time coming, and it's something that's been in the works for 3 months. So, does everybody have the LED service plan as well? Did you?
This is?
Yeah.
No, I don't have it there.
So that is, that's a good starting point. We did get, we did have discussions with them. And as it works out, it's $200, not $20,000 on the increase. So they did a lot of hard work to decide how to get there, and very good meetings to work that out. And the best part of it is that, we keep plugging away at it and making it work. It's never a budget is never 100%, that everybody wants, but it's something that we've got to agree on. Taxes is not a favorite of anybody's, but it's a necessity. So this LED plan is what they came up with. I want you to look it over. I think it comes very close to what we had last year. The trade-off is we did commit to a 2-year recycling contract, and at the same time, the arena hasn't been operating, so we're able to make that work this year, and it will be revisited next year. So that was the biggest trade-off in that area, and that was key. So we'll just hit that highlight there. Then you have a detailed line-by-line report, this vertical one for the municipality. You've got this, I just ran out of copies, so yeah, that's right, draft there. Yes, that one there. So that gives you the detail of, that gives you the detail of the, what's in the budget that we submit, so that if you need to reference anything back, for instance, transportation, you have gravel for $497,000. What makes that up? So there's so much for crushing, so much for laying it down, and so much for purchasing. So you can look at those details. If you go to the landscape one, that there is how we submit it to the province. That's what they want to see. And so basically, I did both versions so that we could see the detail as well as the submittal one. And the biggest change we have that we have to look at, if you go, I was going to say page 8, it's page 8 on the form, but it's, I'll tell you which page it is, and that's where all your assessments are. Page 15. So this is the page that tells you your mill rate at the end of the day. And the mill rate is just about 2/3 of the way over on the page. And you'll see that the mill rate for the rural and the LUD there as well, that's a quarter way down the page. And if you go right to the bottom, you'll see another mill rate, and that's at large. Not very large print, just large as everything in the municipality. So there was some discussion over the past year about items that were charged at large versus charged to the rural, that some members thought should possibly be, at rural and not at large. So for instance, last year we had a line item that was $3,000 and it was charged at large, and at the same time the LUD was getting charged at $3,000. And so it was a simple, oops, that was a oversight, so we moved it over to the rural. But the other items that were of concern were the gravel, and that's to the tune of this year, last year it was $450,000, this year it's $497,000. And the fuel for the rural equipment, it was last year at $120,000, I believe, this year, $116,000, and this year it's $125,000. So that, moving that from at large to rural, those two numbers changes those mill rates quite substantially. So I want you to look at that and decide as a council if that's the right way to go. Now, at the same time, not everything is equal as far as what isn't charged to one part of the RM as compared to another one. So that has to be clarified. So if you take a look at those numbers, for instance, the rural this year, your number is sitting at $5 or 5.948. Hardly see that anymore after staring at these numbers all day. And last year it was at 2.89. So that is a $3 swing, right?
Yeah.
And last year at large was $8.415 mill rate, and this year it is at 5.8. So it's down by $3 at large. So those are the type of swings that moving those dollars can affect. Now, you look at it, you decide where that product or service is used, and so that has to be looked at. These numbers can be changed. They're not
So the way it sits right now, what is it, how close is it to, how much percent is it going up?
So that's a very good question. Overall, we're going to go up 3.5% on taxes.
Everybody?
That's the rural.
Rural, okay.
Mhm. The LUD will stay close, and if we stick with this change from at large to rural, their tax will actually be reduced.
Okay.
You see, because of that small change,
Mm-hmm.
So we've got to remember
Yeah.
that. You're not taking, and really before they were paying 3 to 4% of that dollars, of those dollars being at large. Now they're not gonna pay that. So the rural was paying for it at 96 to 97%, but now they're going to be paying it all. So that's basically just, instead of taxing the rural at large, it's going to be right on their rural mill rate. So it's not a big difference for them, but it's going to show as a mill rate change. But you gotta understand that the LUD only paid a small percentage, but on 500,000, that's quite a bit for 200 residents.
Yeah, for sure.
200 homes or properties. So that's a high level of this.
Yeah,
And it would be unfair to think that we could go into this budget and break it down and make any sense of it
yeah,
tonight.
yeah.
But my deadline was a month ago. It was drop dead. I wasn't coming to the meeting without it tonight. So even if I delivered it 5 to 7, it was coming because I needed it. So we don't feel that we have to do a lot with it tonight, but you have it in hand. The one thing that we need to do is, and later on in the meeting, we're going to pass a resolution to extend our deadline from May 17th. And May 15th is always around that area, but it's Saturday, so it's May 17th for clarification. I would like to see us ask for extension to June 15th, but with our target of having this submitted by May 31st. I don't see why we can't do that with a couple of special meetings. You know, we have to give notice for first, second, and third reading. But as a group, we've got to sit down, take a hard look at it, and come back and discuss it together to understand whether we're accepted. There's no big changes in this budget. Like I say, 3.5%, that's, you know, small changes here and there.
So just like you say, that rural or large.
Mm-hmm. So that is what is going up. If you look at it, there's a small increase in wages. Wages because we had a rate change halfway through last year. Well, we have that effect through the whole year, not just 6 months. So there's an increase there. I think it's only a matter of maybe $40,000 over the whole RM. Like I mentioned before, gravel for roads up $47,000. Contract services will be there's a switch off, you know, for wages. It was the same thing as last year, but this year it's baked in there as well. Different lines, exactly. So those are the numbers that'll pop out at you as big, but there's actually a trade-off between the two. But there is some allowance there for all of the services that we glean from other people. Besides that, there's fuel has gone up. Last year we took advantage of sub $1. This year it's 1.27, 1.3 type of thing. So it's gone up. Last year we budgeted 116 for fuel. We came in at 99. This year we're going to go 125. So those type of things are the changes. You know, that it doesn't take very much. For every 100,000, that's 3% that we increase. So we're just over 100,000 being at 3.5%. But the important thing is that we make sure that we're not shorting ourselves, that we have the money in there to provide the right services for the people. So my job is to keep it as low as possible. Your job is to make sure that there's money in there that we can provide the service. Any questions?
Not yet.
Yeah, I think in fairness, well, unless you have one, Councillor Reeve, but in fairness, I think everyone should take it home and digest it. And we certainly do need one, at least possibly 2 meetings in the next week to ensure that we get this to the final stage where we can call the public hearing.
How far in advance do we have to advertise those meetings?
2 advertisements, which I guess would equal about 10 days.
Okay.
2 weeks, between 10 days and 2 weeks.
don't necessarily expect us to answer, so like the Reeve has suggested, some things we would think about. But one thing I'd like to see us answer soon in the process has been one of those issues that keeps coming up from the LUD about the $5,000 for recycling. And I know, about a year ago, Mr. Pierrepont handled that issue. And my thought was it was from the levies. It's certainly been suggested that later in the meeting we said it was from rural. I would just see us like to answer that question one way or the other. So instead of it being discussed for the next 20 years, we can settle on what is the answer and either apply it to this budget if the answer is we should apply it, and not apply it if it's not appropriate to.
Was that just?
We've already spoken to them about it.
No, that was a very good point. That was something that
We did talk it over.
we need to decide at this meeting so that we can provide an answer. In principle, I think I'm at liberty to say that in principle, the LUD committee will approve this service plan, but they want clarification on that 5,000. I've been told a number of times in many different ways that I should look at the tape. I don't have time to look at the tape. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna make any apologies for it. The fact is that council makes a decision on that. And if you folks have taken a look at the tapes, please instruct us how to go forward.
I think Councillor Pierrepont shared, at least with some of us, that he reviewed the tape.
I did review part of it. I haven't reviewed all of it. I did review the part that I do agree that last year's 5,000 was from rural. It was our way of mending fences and trying to keep recycling. I believe recycling needs to be there, and we agreed to take it from rural from last year. I've since then been asked to review more of the tape to see if it was a continuance, and I haven't got that far yet. So
I did review it as well, and I also agreed with you on the recording, so.
But I haven't-
I second it.
I haven't watched the next part that says that we agreed for continuous support.
So we'd be in a good position to indicate to Mr. Webb that we should, I don't think they got $5,000 last year.
In 2020, we give them $5,000 from our recycling rebate. That's what they received, and that's what's baked into these numbers. But they want that as well as the 5,000 from rural that they were promised. So what they're saying is, you promised us rural, and we expect that our share of the MMSM. And then as soon as you agree to that, then he says, yeah, and going forward. And gosh, you got me again. I'm just getting into one thing, and now it's all over. I have no idea
I
what council
haven't looked
decided
at
about
that other part. If they were given 5,000 from the recycling part, then that was, as per our conversation, that it would come from there. But it was to be from rural, so they can't have, well, for one.
Well, no, they're
The
entitled,
recycling-
they're entitled to their MA.
Yeah,
Like,
but I
they're
don't think it
entitled to
would be
that.
5,000.
Let's
Oh,
get something
yeah.
straight.
It might be more once the numbers come in.
With the garbage,
We gotta be
The
fair.
rebates that we get from recycling
they did.
should be going to the operation of the waste site. And it should not be meant to lower somebody's taxes in the LUD or in the rural, frankly. Because we spend a huge amount of money developing that cell. And to think that you should be able to have your cake and eat it too, so to speak, I think is a little presumptive. From my recollection, we offered them the $5,000. It should go to them, in my estimation. It should not be baked into the budget as to pay for providing of services, but should be earmarked for some sort of reserve, because we know the kind of situation that all of us can get into if we don't have some savings.
And if we need to talk about this in camera because it's negotiations, we can do that, just so that everybody feels comfortable with that. But if we could talk about it, everybody's comfortable talking about that, we can continue.
At any rate, I think that covers it off in a nutshell, we would leave it then to you as individuals to go home and review it more in depth. And we will, we should probably have a resolution tonight to set a special meeting as well.
Yeah, just going back to that 5,000, I don't have clear direction from council on what to tell the LUD. Are you saying that we give it to them from rural, but the MMSM money stays at large?
Well, I believe that we're talking about the same $5,000. I don't think we ever promised them 10 grand. Right?
Well, they expect that the recycling money is for recycling purposes, not landfill. So what I told them is from the past years, that money was not for the collection of recycling, it was used for the processing of the recycling at the recycling center. So that's why they didn't receive any over the first few years. So then when it came to OSS and there was no recycling, they thought, oh, here's a chance we can get our hands on some of that recycling money because we can now use it for pickup and processing with OSS. So that started in July. They got charged OSS fee as well as Swan Valley Solutions picked up in January, February, and half of March. And they did process some of that through July and August. So they did get charged for a little bit of that. $3,000. But yeah, for council has to let me know. I'm done.
Is there a way, like OSS submits how much tonnage
Yes.
from each place?
Yeah,
Like
we'll
we know
know.
exactly how? Okay.
So I said going forward,
Yeah, we'll know.
if it's agreed upon, we would do it based on tonnage, but we have to agree on that with them going forward. But for the past year, 2020, because it was split between stuff being processed at the recycling center and then OSS taking over late and their, records aren't that clear and we didn't have time to break it down as like we would like to. In 2021, we'll have a better opportunity to do that with the more hours that we have available to us.
But currently, the LUD is not paying anything other than the 3% levied at large for the construction of the cell, as an example, or the ongoing operation of the Bonito waste site. Are they? They pay to have their garbage collected, but don't pay any operational fees beyond that.
That is correct, and that is something that we can look at in 2021 as far as what is fair for the people that use the Bozeman landfill as well as the Swan River landfill.
There will be no Bozeman landfill very shortly.
And then it's compared to the Bonito one.
Just like
And so that has to be, we haven't taken the time to break that down, so.
So if Mars money, pays for part of the operation of the landfill, or pays a small percentage of the cost of constructing the cell, in my mind, that's where that money should be going. Because otherwise, it is not fair or equitable. You had a comment?
Yeah, a couple things. To that point, I'm of the other opinion. Money, I think, generated by recycling. If they didn't pay for recycling, there would be no generation of money from recycling. So to me, it's very tied together. If you're spending, we'll use arbitrary numbers, $5,000 to collect the recycling, and because you collected it, you receive $1,000 in rebates, to me, you should be free to use that $1,000 towards what it cost you to collect it. Because if we didn't collect it, there would be no $1,000. More importantly though, to the $5,000, what I would propose and see what the group feels. Last year we didn't give them the $5,000 from rural. I would think that it would be appropriate for us to instruct Mr. Webb to tell them that we will give them the $5,000 not on a continual basis. We're not committed to that at this time, but that $5,000 is available for this year's service plan for them to use as they see fit. Whether it's to reduce the cost of recycling this year, like we're supposed to have to do something, because we promised them the money, we should give them that money.
Well, yeah, but that money was promised for recycling, not And-
But I think what he's saying is, if you as the LUD committee decide, you either you take it off or you put it in reserve for recycling.
Yeah, so I was trying to
'Cause then you could
capture what Mr. Galloway,
put
because
it
Mr.
in.
Galloway preferred in the reserve. I think, to me, I'd say, well, take it off recycling. But if we say they could use it for either, then that gives them the onus to say, okay, should we increase our reserve by $5,000 or should we lower recycling by $5,000?
Yeah.
That kind of puts it back to them, and it gives them the option of doing what Mr. Galloway is suggesting, and it gives them the option of doing the recycling.
So my recommendation to them, and you notice that I distributed the December reports, but we're not voting on it tonight, because there's some items there that we can still work into 2020. So for instance, if we keep it clean and provide the 5,000 to them in 2020, it's just a matter of a transaction in the books. And we don't have to restate anything because we haven't added audit or we haven't just published it. So we make 2020 clean. So they come up with a $5,000 surplus. I said, don't pull that forward, put it into a reserve because we got lots of places that we can use that, okay? And then it puts it in the year that we committed to. And then this budget stays where it's at for 2021, which is very similar to last year. You don't want to drop it and then have to increase it because we see these numbers and we hope they stay consistent, but we can't guarantee that.
No.
So that's why I would recommend that reserve for a rainy day.
I think that's a great idea to take it out of last year's
Yeah.
budget as well.
So one other item that I didn't print tonight, but it's very easy to understand, is federal gas tax. And this is one of the resolutions that I need to do up. So federal gas tax allows us to contribute to solid waste. It allows us to improve our potable water and basically our utilities. And so last year we did $52,000 CCTV, so the sewer line analysis. That tells us the condition of our asset, tells us where we have to improve it. So that falls under federal gas tax money. We also put a new well in for $48,000. The $52,000, the bulk water and rural does not use that because that's sewer. So I've asked that the LUD committee consider taking $52,000 out of their federal gas tax and put it towards the sewer CCTVs. Not too much pushback. We get to use our federal gas tax, which we have lots of, and it goes to a utility that needs the money. We can't afford to spend any more capital without having that type of money available. For the $48,000, bulk water, we run at $16,000, basically that the rural pays into the utility. We're at about $105,000 total revenue, which leaves it about 15%. So of the $48,000, we would be, the rural would contribute maybe $7,300 in federal gas tax from our federal gas tax. And that would leave the LUD with 42,7.
It's getting down there.
So anyhow, their total contribution to the utility out of their federal gas tax would be 92,700. Ours would be 73 for round numbers.
Okay.
And that way that we contribute a little bit for the ratepayers that do use that water, but the utility benefits, which we do need to benefit. So, you know, I'd like to hear from council that they would be willing to make that transfer in 2020. Along with that, the solid waste I mentioned, we spent $44,000 with contractors to build that landfill. We can take that out of our rural federal gas tax. To the Reeve's point, to Glen's point, is that somehow we've got to make it more fair for what the LUD pays for that. The 3.5% doesn't cover their portion of it, you know, at large. So we can work on that going forward, but to get it in the books so we can use that gas tax when we needed to, we need to pass a resolution to move 44,000 for federal gas over to the landfill. Any discussion on that?
Everybody understand? Go ahead.
I know we now split federal gas tax when it comes in, but you don't get some, and the rural gets some. For a few years, we didn't. And so I'm curious if there would be any support to the idea of, rather than do that, I think it was $7,000, if we could up it to 10 or 15 in recognition of what wasn't put into their fund in the past, because we do have lots.
So the Benito federal gas tax account wasn't funded, but it was always understood that they had a portion of it.
So all those years they
So
did
if you look at
actually-
the financial statement that I sent out for December, I believe it's in there, we went back to 2015 when we amalgamated and trued it up, including interest. So that brought in $110,000. Now, we didn't put that in the bank, we just made a commitment that it's their money on paper. So it's a paper transaction. Rather than us taking money out of our operating cash account and borrowing money to operate, the last 3 months of the year, we borrow from ourselves. That's how that works. But on paper, it shows that they now have, like in the bank, it's about 72,000. On paper, it's 179,000. So they've got money to cover this.
No, as long as that was done, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, and we talked about that the first meeting I attended. So it was finally done a year later.
Okay, are we in favor of what Mr. Webb is suggesting here with regard to the transfers?
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially,
Do up a
I know that
resolution
the people
then,
that use
we'll
that
do it
water
informally.
would want to help that way. I do. And it is the percentage, it is like they do buy the water, which they don't have a problem with.
Yeah,
And I do know that they want to do that. Or I know that they would want, they don't know that number or whatever, but they would want to contribute.
well, and it's a way to
Because they use it.
help clean up the utility.
Well, we gotta help somehow.
And I'm all about round numbers, so.
And if,
that's
and especially it's not
70,000,
costing, it's,
everybody
yes, I know,
doesn't have to be
it's
exact.
still money,
They
but
do that with my paychecks.
we gotta. We're not digging up the lines and fixing them, we're
Yeah.
paying for something that we already use,
Yeah,
After 50.
that any one of us might use,
Right?
Yeah.
Okay,
even though we pay.
Mr. Webb will do that.
Yeah, we'll do that for the federal gas tax transfer, and on the, did I get clear direction on the 5,000?
From 2020, I think.
Yes, okay, we'll do that, and we're, okay, good, okay.
And it was a one-time.
One-time deal, okay.
Well, and then
You
if-
can come back and negotiate it when we talk about landfill recycling.
Exactly.
And
So,
it's never too early to start talking about what we should do for recycling going forward. We need to do that early.
Are we having them come to a meeting at some point to go over their thing?
I don't think it's necessary. I think we've had communication loud and clear. Depends what the council decides at large compared to rural. That moving that money. When you come back to a special meeting, they could have pushback. I want to meet as a council at a special meeting before the 18th, because when I go to them on the 18th, I need their approval of that service plan, so that, because that'll be our last meeting before May 31st.
Yeah.
So that means that we have to have a meeting here Thursday or Monday. I mean, Wednesday's tomorrow's soon, but
Yeah.
Thursday or Monday, we should meet on a special meeting and crunch these numbers.
Okay.
Okay, anything under correspondence besides this one?
No.
Okay, we'll move to committee reports. Pierrepont.
how did I know that? I attended a transportation meeting. And I believe a special meeting.
HR.
HR meeting, that's the word I'm looking for.
Services.
Was that before that? Oh, right, yeah, and shared services.
Resolution for that. Somehow that got missed out, or I'm just overlooking it, so I'll write it on the agenda and we'll approve that after the break. Just yet another resolution, really good. Okay, so Pierrepont was transportation,
Shared services.
shared services.
And HR.
Excuse me.
We'll be able to order pizza at the break.
We're gonna have time.
That's good.
Shared services.
I attended a transportation meeting, an HR meeting as well. I also yesterday attended a utility meeting. That was yesterday, correct?
Yep. Transfer station, HR, and LED.
No, a utility.
Utility.
LUD is no, not till the 18th.
Yeah, that's right, it's because that was last, seems that was okay last week.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kushniryk.
Just the shared services meeting for me.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Foster.
Transportation meeting from,
Councillor Wills.
Transportation meeting and a HR meeting for myself.
Councillor Gade, you talk to anybody?
You actually attended an HR meeting for a moment or two, and then we've been working with ratepayer concerns.
Okay, thank you. Myself was an HR, transportation meeting, and a utility meeting.
Shared services?
Was that this term?
Was after, yeah.
Okay, was, yeah.
And I'll get that written up on a form.
Okay, what about yourself?
I did transportation and utilities.
Okay, we've come to the point on the agenda where we open the mic to anyone in the gallery who wishes to make a comment or ask a question in regard to any topic talked about at tonight's meeting.
This is Jeremy here. I think if I missed it, was there an estimated time when you might have a public hearing for the financial plan?
No. Getting a head shake from Mr. Webb.
Okay.
Anyone else have a question?
A lot of it was still pretty foggy, couldn't hear.
Yeah, unfortunate that we're in these times yet, and we've been utilizing what we have here, and hopefully soon we'll be able to reopen as shots get put into people's arms. Hopefully it's sooner rather than later.
We'll try to get better equipment over the next couple of weeks. I think we'll allow for that. Sorry, Meredith.
Yeah, no, I can always hear the Reeve, but it's particularly Councillor Gade. It just gets really muffled.
Yeah, well, in fairness, the phone is in the center of the desk, and so that we are physically distanced, two councillors are sitting in the area where the gallery usually sits. And we did remember to move the phone a few times, but not every time. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if there's no other questions, thank you all again for attending, and have a good evening.
Carry on and have a good evening. Good night.
Thank you. We'll call it 10. Okay, next resolution resolved that we do hereby accept the following verbal reports regarding council committees and communications. Councillor Kushniryk, Shared Services. Councillor Blosha, Transportation, HR and Utility Meetings. Councillor Wills, Transportation, HR. Councillor Pierrepont, Transportation, Shared Services, HR. Councillor Gade, short HR meeting, ratepayers, Councillor Foster, transportation, myself, transportation, HR, utility, and shared services, ACAO, FO, James Webb, transportation, utility, and shared services. Mover, please. Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Pierrepont. All in favor? It's carried. Next resolution, be it resolved that Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West does hereby agree to ask the province for an extension to the budget deadline to June 15th, 2021. The mover, please. Councillor Kushniryk. Seconded by Councillor Wills. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Next resolution, be it resolved that Council for the Municipality of Swan Valley West does hereby agree to transfer $7,226 from rural federal gas tax to the utility to fund capital works of the new well. This represents the rural percentage of water usage. Council also agrees to the transfer of $44,141 from rural federal gas tax to capital for the construction of the new landfill cell at the Bonito landfill. Mover for that? Moved by Councillor Blosha. Seconded by Councillor Kushniryk. Any discussion? Not all in favor? That's carried. Resolution resolved that pursuant to section 152 sub 3 of the Municipal Act, the council as a whole shall go into camera, close the meeting to continue discussions regarding bylaw enforcement, building inspector report, ratepayer concerns, roofers, employee matters, shared services, and stop sign. Mover for that resolution. Moved by Councillor Wills, seconded by Councillor Pierrepont. All in favor? That is carried. Okay, resolution resolved that pursuant to section 152 sub 4 of the Municipal Act, this meeting shall be reopened to the public. Moved by Councillor Blosha, seconded by Councillor Wills. All in favor? It's carried. Next resolution resolved that in accordance with clause 8.5 of bylaw number 0002-15, the council shall extend the curfew by up to 1/2 hour in order to complete discussions regarding
What do you want, the phone stuff?
no.
Discussion,
Regarding
resolutions.
regarding resolutions resulting from in-camera issues. Mover, please. Councillor Kushniryk. Seconded by Councillor Pierrepont. All in favor? It's carried. Next resolution, whereas Mr. Sam Biblo has submitted his written resignation effective May 15th, 2021 to the ACAO at the regular meeting of council held this 11th day of May 2021. Therefore be it resolved that the members of council for the Municipality of Swan Valley West do hereby acknowledge and accept Mr. Bilbo's resignation with regrets and best wishes. Do we have a mover? Moved by Councillor Pierrepont, seconded by Councillor Foster. All in favor? It's carried.
Now, do you want me here for this vote or not?
Well, you don't vote, do you?
No, I just don't know.
Okay, next resolution, resolved that James Webb shall be hired as acting chief administrative officer for the Municipality of Swan Valley West, and be it resolved that said appointment as ACAO shall be subject to the terms and conditions as set out in an employment contract to be signed by James Webb and the HR committee on behalf of the municipality. Shouldn't have an A in there, should it?
Yes, acting CAO. Or do you want to just CAO?
It's a CAO.
Okay.
Mover, please. Moved by Councillor Kushniryk. Second by Councillor Blosha. Discussion?
First, I'd like to ask for a recorded vote.
Okay.
I'll keep my comments fairly brief. I've been told that I'm not allowed to express any views on why I don't think this is the appropriate decision. But I will be going on record in a recorded vote indicating that I do not think this is the appropriate decision for council. I'm voting against the resolution. I will further mention on the record that tonight, at the direction of the Reeve, council was told that the decision that we are making here should be discussed and decided in front of the candidate, which is not the operating procedure of this municipality and was not an appropriate decision to be made. Thank you.
Okay, any further comment?
With alternate, it's just a check mark because these are already in place.
Okay, we'll go by ward. Councillor Foster.
Yeah.
Councillor Blosha.
Yes.
Councillor Gade.
No.
Yes.
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 And yes. Motion is carried, 6-1. Next resolution, resolved that Robin Webb shall be hired as Assistant Chief Administrative Officer / Finance Officer for the Municipality of Swan Valley West. Be it resolved that said appointment as ACAO / FO shall be subject to the terms and conditions as set out in an employment contract agreed to by Robin Webb and the HR committee on behalf of the municipality. A mover for that resolution, please. Moved by Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Pierrepont. Any discussion? Go ahead.
I'd like to request a recorded vote. Again, I'll keep my comments brief. I've been told again I'm not allowed to express the reasons for why this is not an appropriate decision for this council to make. I will be voting against the decision because I do believe it is not an appropriate decision for this council. And I will also read into the record at this time that the proper hiring processes were not followed for this decision. Thank you.
Councillor Foster.
Yes.
Councillor Blosha.
Yes.
Councillor Gade.
No.
Councillor Kushniryk.
Yes.
Yes.
Councillor Wills. Councillor Pierrepont.
Yes.
And yes.
You looked at me, so I thought I'd say yes.
The resolution is carried 6-1.
So are you going to put that meeting on the 15th? Yeah, okay.
Past one, go past 11.
Yeah. So at this special meeting, I have budget, a utility release, media release, and then the airport commission to vote on it, to talk about it, and the stop sign. Anything else that we need to put on that agenda? Those are just quick things that we can talk about and get through them, you know. Okay.
Okay, resolved that this meeting shall now adjourn at 11:37 p.m. Be it further resolved that we meet May 13th at 5 p.m. for a special budget meeting. And be it further resolved that the next meeting is Tuesday, next regular meeting is Tuesday, May 25th, 2021 at 7 p.m. A mover, please. Moved by Councillor Foster. Seconded by Councillor Kushniryk.
Maybe things will get back to normal now.
All in favor? That is good.